Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of HRAI, my name is Scott Papp, Manager of Membership and Divisional Programs. Thank you for joining us today. A few quick housekeeping items before we get into things. The AGM will be recorded and a copy of the recording will be available after the AGM. Be sure to share it with your colleagues. All attendees are in listen mode only to reduce background noise and disruptions. We strongly encourage you to use Google Chrome as your internet browser when accessing the platform. If you are using another browser and experiencing issues, that will usually solve it. I would ask that the attendees be mindful of the rules of conduct. Please note all meetings shall be conducted in compliance with the Canadian Competition Act and regulations. If you have any questions to be addressed during the AGM, please use the Q&A feature. The Q&A feature can be found on the Engage tab at the top of your video screen. Use the chat on the right-hand side of your browser to connect with our technicians if you're experiencing any technical difficulties or to engage with others. On to voting instructions. Slido is the voting software we will be using today. And if you are not a voting member, you will not have access. For voting members, please take a moment right now to make sure you are logged into Slido on your mobile device or computer. The link to the voting software was distributed via email along with the access code you will need to use. If you are a voting member and need today's Slido link, please request it in the chat and it will be sent to you directly. While you are doing that, we will review how voting is accomplished and how we will inform everyone of the results. For a motion to be passed, we must have a majority vote. This is a majority of the amount of voting people present plus the amount of proxies received. If anyone abstains or votes against, this does not impact a vote passing as long as we still have a majority vote in favor. Should the amount of abstains and/or opposed votes result in the majority of votes for a motion, that motion will not be passed. We have received the names of those wishing to move and second for each motion in advance of this AGM. We will read these individuals' names aloud for each vote so everyone is aware who has moved and seconded the motion. We will then open the vote in Slido. You will then be asked to vote on the motion, either in favor, opposed, or abstain. The poll will be open for about 20 seconds, and the chair will announce when you have 5 seconds left. Once we have all the results in, we will read them aloud for everyone to hear. Let's move on to a practice vote. To make sure all voting reps are confident using Slido, we will now do one quick practice vote. Voting reps, please make sure you're ready to vote. A reminder again, if you are not the voting representative, you will not have access to the platform and will not need to do anything during the votes. Let's begin with this practice vote. This is just for pretend and is not an official vote of the AGM. I would like to put forth a motion to have Potato Head as HRAI's mascot. This motion has been moved by Wonder Woman and seconded by Superman. Normally at this juncture, we would ask for any questions from the floor, but we will skip that for this practice vote. We will now move on to you casting your vote using Slido. Voting will be available for the next 20 seconds.
Okay, great, Scott. I can see some people voting on the back end. Looks like we've got some people in favor and some people abstaining. Not surprised. So we'll just give them a little bit more time here to start practicing that.
So nobody's against Mr. Potato Head?
We have one against now and one person who's decided not to have an opinion on this.
Okay, so the voting will close in 5 seconds. Thank you for voting. It is now closed. The motion has passed. Potato Head is our new mascot. Of course, this is just practice. It doesn't really count. So thank you for participating in our first practice vote. Would now like to get on to the AGM and would like to introduce HREI Contractor Chair Eric Foran Eric, if you could turn on your camera and unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Can you see me, I guess, is the first question.
We can see you. We can hear you.
Alrighty, and welcome to the Contractors Division Annual Meeting. For those of you who don't know me, I am Eric Foreign, Chair of the Contractors Division and Vice President of MasterTech HVAC and Plumbing Incorporated. I would like to call the meeting to order and welcome members and guests in attendance. Please be mindful of the rules of conduct for HRI meetings. It is appreciated that members adhere to these rules. I confirm that those present today and proxies received, we have constituted a quorum for the meeting. And the agenda for today's AGM is on the screen for your review. So let's move on to the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, which was held on October 1st, 2020. And these minutes were provided in advance of the AGM in the package you received. So the first motion is to approve the minutes of the October 1st, 2020 Contractor AGM. This was moved by Tara Smith and seconded by John Krill. Now I ask any issues to be raised. And if there's no issues, please cast your vote. The vote will open for 20 seconds. The vote will close in 5 seconds.
Okay, Eric, we'll just give people a moment to vote here. Thanks so much. And Mary, I'll have you come on and announce the results whenever you're ready.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, with the proxy received and now with the majority vote, it's in favor.
Great, thank you for voting. The motion has passed. So next we move on to the approval of HRI's auditors. The motion to approve the HRI auditors of Welch LLP. We have that motion by Alicia Carter and seconded by Ivor Bonnier. Is there any issues to be raised? With no issues, please cast your vote. Again, the vote will be open for 20 seconds and the vote will close in 5 seconds. Sorry, in 15 seconds from now.
Okay, great. The vote is open and we have some votes coming in, and Mary will announce the results once they're all in.
Five seconds.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, with the proxies received and the votes recorded here now, the majority of the voters are in favor.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you for voting. The motion is passed. Next item is the approval of the slate of officers. Let's move on to the approval of the slate of directors for 2021-2022. So again, the motion to approve the 2021-2022 HRA Board of Directors and the Contractors Board of Directors. It was moved by Andrew Vasalik and seconded by Terry Roper. Again, any issues to be raised? If there's no issues to be raised, please cast your vote. The vote will be open for 20 seconds.
All right, we've got the vote open and votes are coming in. Hang tight for Mary's response.
The votes will close in 5 seconds.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, with the proxies received and the majority of the votes cast now, majority is in favor.
Great, thank you, Mary, and thank you for voting. The motion is passed. Well, we moved through that quite quickly. The next item on the agenda is the contractor's chair speech. And so again, thank you, everyone. This concludes the AGM proper, and I'd like to take this time to reflect on some key initiatives over the past year in the Contractors Division. It has been my pleasure serving as your Contractors Division chair this past year. As challenging as it was, the global pandemic had a significant impact on the HVACR marketplace. Your Contractors Division Board of Directors and staff at HRI pivoted to focus on a strategy of retaining members in order to ensure the health of the association for future years. Membership growth is still evident, but at a reduced rate. As none of us had gone through this type of situation before, we really did not know what the outcome would be. I am pleased to report that last year we had a member retention rate of 92%. While down from previous years, we are more than satisfied with the number of members who renewed and with the onset of the pandemic. Our contractor members also had their own challenges. Some of our members did well in certain markets, while others did not fare so well, but all faced unique challenges such as supply chain issues, boat breaks impacting human resources, and generally not knowing what type of work you could or could not do based on the guidelines or rules in your region. COVID-19 tested many, if not all, facets of our contracting business, but also showed us the importance of belonging to an industry association, as HRAI provided information and guidance for its contractor members during these unprecedented times. With COVID-19 hopefully, or soon, to be on the decline, your contractor division can get back to its goal of increasing membership, which in turn increases the influence HRAI has at various levels of government. While new member growth declined during the pandemic, I am pleased to report that we have already surpassed the total membership revenue of the previous year with 7 months to go. In other words, we are on track to get back to pre-pandemic numbers in terms of membership growth. Prior to March of 2020, when we felt the first big impact of COVID-19, HRI's chapters and affiliate associations had held 26 meetings and were on pace to surpass the 40 meetings held the previous year. The pandemic put an abrupt stop to that. Traditionally, chapters offered services to their members by hosting face-to-face meetings, often with a meal and a guest speaker. This meeting model simply was not feasible over the past 18 months. Furthermore, chapters are governed by volunteers that own and operate contracting businesses just like yourselves. Many of these volunteers had to refocus their efforts on their businesses during these trying times. I am very appreciative of our contractor members who understood the challenges that chapters have had and their limited abilities over the past 18 months. I can assure you that HRI Canada is working with chapters to get them rebooted in the coming months. I also encourage chapter leaders to work with HRAI Canada to provide value for their members and encourage our membership at large to continue to be patient and offer support to the chapters. Perhaps consider volunteering on your local chapter board, or Reach out to your chapter board of directors to offer ideas on how they can provide value to you at the local level. I am cautiously optimistic that chapters will make a return to offering significant value to their members. Some have already held outdoor events such as golf tournaments, and others have offered virtual meetings, and hybrid meetings are on the horizon. Another benefit of membership with HRI is the ability to access promotions and discounts via partners that HRI has arranged special offers and discounts with. In addition of the new programs, the addition of the new programs was difficult during COVID-19, as many would-be partners are, like many of us, focused on business survival as opposed to growth. Your contractor division will be evaluating current programs and adding new programs in the upcoming months. In short, it's all about continuously improving membership benefits. I encourage members to take a look at these programs posted on the HRA website or reach out to HRA staff personally to learn more. I'm confident you'll find something to assist your business operations or even save you money. Briefly, I'd like to touch on 2 points that HRA President and CEO Sandy McLeod mentioned earlier. I want to assure our contractors members that your board will have your best interests represented in HRA's review of its governance structure and strategic priorities over the next several months, and look forward to working with manufacturers and wholesalers divisions for the betterment of your association. With respect to the annual general meeting, this is the second year our contractors town hall session will be held directly after the AGM. This session allows HRA contractor members to introduce topics of interest or concern, to be updated on the progress of previous town hall submissions. And also, as mentioned, the town hall meeting will take place immediately following this AGM. I encourage you to listen in and participate. In closing, I would like to extend my appreciation to the HRA Contractors Division Board of Directors and our many committee volunteers who continue to dedicate the time and intelligence to the betterment of the association. I encourage you to reach out to the HRA staff should you have interest in serving as a task team, on a task team, committee, or on your board of directors. As I depart the board to enjoy phased-in retirement from the industry, I wish the new incoming chair for the Contractors Division, Ms. Tara Smith of Mr. Furnace Man New Homes, based in Winnipeg, all the best. I would also like to thank the staff at HRI for all the work and support they give you, the members, as well as the board of directors. Pardon me. Thank you. We will now take any questions that you may have.
All right, Eric, we'll give Scott a moment to join us back on to moderate any questions. A reminder to put any questions that you'd like into the Engage tab. So Scott will just give them a moment to type in their questions if they do have any.
Okay. I'm not seeing any on my app.
Confirm none yet, but we might just give them a moment in case we've got some slower typers with us today.
Is it possible for a staffer to submit a question just to make sure I'm not getting technical difficulties?
I can confirm no technical difficulties, Scott. No questions are coming in right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then back to Eric.
Okay, Eric, we'll have you turn on your video. There you are. Welcome back.
All right. The next item, we move on to the town hall. And I'll now throw it back to Scott Papp to commence the Contractors Division town hall meeting officially.
So we are adjourning the AGM at 1:23 p.m. Eastern Time.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Eric. Welcome to the town hall session. All discussion should go through the Q&A feature. The Q&A feature, once again, is found on the Engage tab at the top of your video screen. The agenda will include a review of the previous year's submissions, any new submissions, and discussion. So what we're going to start with is the 4 prior submissions we received. We'll start with the first one. Next slide. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. There were 4 submissions. All 4 were approved by your board of directors, so we were good there. The first submission was HREI should engage with Technical Safety BC to explore the development of a compliance assistance program to be managed by HREI that would help BC contractors to comply with boiler and pressure vessels, BPV, regulations modeled on a similar program that has served members in Ontario. I'll now ask Martin to unmute and turn on his camera and comment on this submission.
Is Scott, is Rob Flipsy on the call as well?
I'm searching for him.
I'm only asking. I'm only asking because he might want to augment what I have said. It's been some time since we had our meeting with members in British Columbia, but we met with contractors to discuss an approach to BPV, and I'm going to say I don't know that there's 100% consensus within the contractors in that in the contracting community within RACA BC on an approach. There seems still to be a little bit of reticence to recommend a proactive type program such as the one we've created in Ontario. So my recollection of this is how we left it was to be in monitoring mode relative to the level of enforcement that was going to be done by Technical Safety BC and act when the time comes. But that might, so in other words, no immediate recommendation to implement a program, rather to wait and see what level of enforcement happens going forward, and determining, when the time comes, whether or not we should adopt the program there, modeled on the Ontario program. But I think that's my recollection of the conclusion from the meetings that we had with members in the region. But I invite Rob to comment if he's on as well.
I'm not sure Rob has the ability to comment if he's not in the backstage area. So I would suggest we leave that and invite any questions through the engagement tab on this submission, if there are any. I don't see any, so we will move on to submission number 2, which, Martin, you did speak on this one briefly, but I will, earlier in the AGM, but I will read it out again. It's HREI should develop a comprehensive plan for the development and implementation of a residential HVAC trade tied into the existing refrigeration and air conditioning trade and building on the program model that exists in other provinces to better serve the needs of the residential HVAC industry in the 4 Atlantic provinces.
Yes, on this one we've been very proactive and have made a lot of traction over the last year. The approach we decided to take, based on guidance we received from Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency, was to provide some level of assurance to them as the regulator that this is an initiative that is supported by local members. And in order to do that, though we felt pretty confident, this request actually came from the Atlantic region to act on this. But that's by itself wasn't sufficient to satisfy their needs to create a regulation. So what we did was we've done, of course, all virtual. We had to do a bunch of workshops, and Scott, you might want to comment in a minute on how many. I don't recall. It seems like a lot. I think we did 4 or 5, and how many members we engaged with. But quite a number of contractors with some diverging views. But in the end, I'm going to say a lot of support, almost consensus that this is a program we should be moving forward on. So that's, we just met last week with a representative of the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Authority, Sandy and I did, to basically feel them out on, are we where you need us to be in terms of demonstrating support? One other thing I should mention in terms of support, it's not really just support from our sector. They wanted to make sure that not just HVAC contractors, but others who might be affected by the passing of a new regulation, what are their thoughts to minimize or ensure that there's no opposition from other quarters. So we've had meetings with the local Home Builders Association, with the Merit Contractors Group, with the United Association, which is the union, and one other who I can't recall. And for the most part, we've gotten support. We also have notional support from Efficiency Nova Scotia, and we've had, I'm not going to say we have support from Nova Scotia Power, but Nova Scotia Power has been helpful to HRI in reaching out to the industry within the province to see what level of support exists. And I don't know if I think I missed saying this. One of the decisions we made last year following on this request was to start with one province of the 4. This is obviously about developing a program for all of the Atlantic provinces, but we decided, because regulations have to be passed province by province, that we would start with Nova Scotia, in the hopes that having a regulation passed and having gone through some consensus process, it might have a bit of a domino effect with the other provinces. And sure enough, in those consultation sessions that we had in Nova Scotia, we had quite a number. I'm going to say in each meeting we had probably a handful of people from New Brunswick, in some cases from PEI, involved as well. They're very, very interested in seeing this happen in those provinces as well. But we decided to start with Nova Scotia and then move to the other provinces after that. So we brought in Nova Scotia, we brought this to the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency last week and said, are we where we need to be for you to start acting on this? And they said, file the application, we'll review it. There will be an opportunity for industry to feedback on this anyway. Their whole process requires them to go out to industry for a period of time and invite comments and so on. So we're going to pursue that filing of an application in Nova Scotia. That's something that probably can be done inside of the next few weeks or a month at the outside, to make sure we've answered all the questions that the province has posed. It includes by the way, some data requirements that we have to demonstrate: the number of tradespeople in the province, how many people would be affected if we created this new residential program, what's the likely trajectory of growth, are there any there's a whole bunch of questions they have of a statistical nature that all we can really do is speculate based on the number of businesses, the number of heat pumps going into the province and that sort of thing. So that's something we're working on, and I expect that we'll have an application into the ministry, or the agency rather, certainly within a month, and we'll take it from there. Scott, maybe you want to augment what I said with a comment on the workshops that we did.
Yeah, well, we've had several meetings. Martin and I initially went out and did some roundtables in Nova Scotia back in June of 2019. Martin's right. This past few months, we've had about 4 or 5 meetings. In those meetings, these are virtual meetings, we've had between, I'm going to say 50 and 75 contractors, mainly from Nova Scotia, but as Martin said, some from other areas. And we will probably be having another meeting in a couple of weeks, so another virtual meeting. So stay tuned to watch for that. I am not getting any questions on this topic, but I am getting some questions in. One is a kind of a new question unrelated to the submissions, which we will get to at the when we get to the new submissions. And Rob Flipsy Martin is just confirming what you said, that Technical Safety BC is aware of the issues with enforcing brazing. But it's a wait and see approach, and the biggest issue is the lack of availability of testing and training by certified organizations. So we'll see if a lot of it depends on whether they enforce it. It's kind of that be careful what you wish for approach, I guess. So seeing no questions on the Atlantic submission, we'll move on to number 3. Which is HRAI should develop a plan of action to address concerns about inappropriate utility intrusions into the HVAC marketplace in Alberta, collaborating with other industry groups as necessary.
Well, this is going to be a disappointing report for our members in Alberta, I'm going to confess, because we've not been able to do a lot on this file. Partly from the standpoint of resources that we've just not been able to commit, and partly because we haven't really yet gotten a sense of what kind of support exists in the province for taking action. And I don't want to say that as from the standpoint of this as a deterrent and that we shouldn't act, but one of the things we know from experience is challenging a utility, particularly one that has a broad appeal and a lot of customer support, is going to be a very large challenge for us from a PR standpoint, and I'm going to, more importantly, maybe from a cost standpoint. These things are all we can overcome all of them through regulatory changes that would, perhaps limit the level of activity that the utility can, the level of involvement they can have in our industry beyond what's within scope for them as a regulated business. But it's a big challenge. So that sounds like an excuse, and I know Julie's on the call. I'm going to apologize to her, and I'll do it personally too, that I wish we could be further along on this file, because I think it's really an important one to our members in Alberta. So I think we should keep this one on the list and work to develop a strategy. One of the things I've talked with Scott about, and Scott maybe can flesh this out a little bit too, is about the importance of taking an approach that's broader than the HVAC industry. The work that's being done by the utility in question goes far beyond HVAC. So if we want to tackle this, we're probably going to need a much broader business coalition. I know Scott's done some outreach to some other business associations within the province to get a sense of their level of support. From our standpoint, we won't get very far if we don't have that support, because we would have to take this to the regulator. We can't go to the court of public opinion because we're not likely to win that one. The utility's popular, they have a lot of customer support, and most people in the province would say they don't see anything wrong with them necessarily being involved in channeling, business leads to companies and, being active in the home renovation space. So it's an uphill battle. Again, I don't mean that to sound as like an excuse, because we've taken it on elsewhere before and we've won. So I think it's a important issue for our members, and one that we should keep on the I'm going to say, let's bring it to the front burner, and we'll try to do some of that this coming year. It's always difficult to do these things under the current conditions we're under, but it's also been difficult for the last year because of we've had a little bit of staff turnover at HRAI, so applying the right dedicated resources to this initiative has been a challenge. But I'll leave it at that and just say that we don't want to push this aside, but we'll take it on in the let's say in the 6 months in front of us, now that we've got a great team that's assembled and ready to get to work on this. Scott, do you have anything to add to that in terms of the outreach we've done?
No, only that you're correct in that the utility in question it's more than an HVAC related problem. It's the utility is offering things like tree trimming, I believe roofing, plumbing, which probably will assist us in the long run because they're infringing in many markets, not just HVAC. So there is power in numbers. We have reached out to some of those associations. Keep in mind that the utility might partner with members of those associations, which can also complicate things. So it's a tough one, but yep, we'll continue to work on it for sure. Seeing no questions on that, we will move on to submission 4. Keeping in mind, I do have now 2 others, I'm going to call 2021 items for discussion, but let's finish up on last year's submissions. Submission 4 is HRAI should explore the possibility of a legislated solution to the concerns about municipally owned utilities engaging in business activities outside the scope of the regulation under the Ontario Energy Board.
I guess I'm commenting on this one as well, Scott.
Definitely.
Okay, this is one we made a little bit of headway with Dorothy in our employee last year. Dorothy left, I think in November, early in the new year. So she got a little bit of traction working with the junior minister, associate minister of small business and red tape reduction, with some basically putting the idea in front of them that this is a concern. And what we're talking about here is, rather than going to the Ontario Energy Board, I think we had a little bit of a discussion about this last year, if I recall. The concern about going to the Ontario Energy Board, which is the regulator in question, is that this is too small of an issue for them to even pay attention to. If you ever go to the Ontario Energy Board website and look at the number of proceedings that they have in front of them at any given time, it's several dozen. There's applications for rate. Every utility has to apply for rate adjustments and that sort of thing. So and changes in policy and that sort of thing. So it's quite a full table that they have, and issues coming from our industry as what they would see as fringe to the work of utilities. Really, it's very hard to get their attention. Even more so if we're talking about small local electric utilities. So we've talked about it. We did actually pursue with the utility in question, which was North Bay Hydro. This is partly where this came from. The local membership wanted us to take some action. We talked to our lawyer. We did a little bit of negotiating discussion at the their rate hearing, which was early this year. And not a lot came of that. I'm trying to remember what the outcome. Anyway, there was nothing that solved the issue from the standpoint of our members with this particular utility that had started an HVAC business and several other home renovation activities. Very popular, by the way, with their local community to be doing that. A little bit of an analogy to the case in Alberta, except on a much smaller scale. So the thought locally was, with a small group of members, was, why don't we just ask the Ontario government to write a law that says this sort of thing can't happen? This is a very big ask. In some ways, it would mean potentially changing the Energy Act in Ontario, or at least getting a clarification in terms of the scope of what's within scope for utilities and what's not. And that would then be translated down to the Ontario Energy Board to enforce. But that's the thought that we had, was let's ask for a regulation that would solve this problem once and for all. That's the approach we're going to take. As I think I probably would have shared last year, it's maybe a 50-50 chance, probably less, because there's other vested interests, including the utilities themselves, that are also talking to the Ontario government. The good news is that because we have an Ontario government that's very friendly to small businesses, we think we know we can get an audience with them. We have done before. We've talked with Prabnik Zakaria, who is the Junior Minister for Small Business and Red Tape Reduction. It's been changed now to Nina, I forget her name. I want to say Sangria, but that's not correct. We know we can get traction with them. In fact, they've done a number of other things on our behalf. They've eliminated other regulations that we thought were troublesome. So, you know, there's some room for optimism that we might get it, but I'd still say it's a bit of a long shot. Having said that, that's the approach we decided on. That's the support we got from our local membership in Ontario, who were affected by this particular concern. It was also endorsed by the HVAC Coalition in Ontario. When they weighed in on it, they said that's probably the right way to go, and that's what we're going to continue to do. Now we have Chelsea Goberdan on board at HRAI. She is our government relations specialist for Ontario, and she'll be taking this issue forward in the right time. Once she fully gets up to speed on this and other issues, she'll be taking this issue forward on our behalf. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Not seeing any questions on that. If any come in, we can always go back to the submissions, but I'd like to reach out to a couple of submissions that we received, one a couple days ago and one just today. I'm actually going to jump to the one we just received today because it does, at a macro level, I'd say, relate to the next question. So the first question is from Laverne Coulter, and his question is, are some chapters doing virtual meetings? And if yes, how are they working out? I guess you want me to take this one, Martin. I'm happy to take this one. So,
well, yes, because I don't have an answer. So
I do. So Laverne and fellow contractor members, the answer is some are doing virtual meetings, but very rare. Post March 2020, when the outbreak first really hit us, RACA BC, an affiliate of HRAI, held a virtual meeting. That went well. Then they held another one. That went well. The Brant Haldeman Norfolk chapter held a golf tournament. So keep in mind, that's outdoors. And, you know, numbers were down naturally for that. In 2021, I have Brant Haldeman Norfolk chapter once again doing a golf tournament. The Atlantic chapter held 2 virtual meetings, basically run by HRAI, but branded as the HRAI Atlantic chapter. They have a hybrid meeting coming up, which I understand that I'm not sure if Eric wants to chime in here, but I understand that what they're going to do is they're going to offer it in person and also broadcast it to their members. So we'll see how that turns out. Recently, last week, spoke to Tara Smith in Manitoba about getting the Manitoba chapter started again. That's not that easy because we talked about, you know, a lot of different opinions out there with our membership. Even I was phoning around on behalf of the Kawartha Lakes chapter, which Laverne is a member of. And, you know, I phoned, sorry, Laverne, I phoned a couple of hotels in Peterborough, not Fenelon Falls. And, you know, one said, yeah, we got a meeting room, but we're cutting it in half. So the meeting room can hold 30. All of a sudden, that's down to 15. So, not to mention the fact that chapter needs some leadership. So anybody on the call from City of Kawartha Lakes, Peterborough, Haliburton, parts of Durham, let me know if you're interested in volunteering at that chapter and I'll put you on. But to answer your question, a few virtual meetings, we'd like to see more. The ones we've held, I thought were pretty good though. So I'm not sure. I haven't had a response from him. I don't know even if he's still on the in the session. Any questions about that? Again, you can use the Engage tab to ask any questions. I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to jump to the next one, which did impact chapters, but the submission comes more in the form of the impact on business. And this is a discussion point raised by Nancy McCarrigan of Canco Climate Care. And her discussion point is, and to be honest, this is not a great venue for discussion, just because the discussion is going to have to take place by you typing in something in the engagement tab. But we're gonna kick this off anyway. Nancy has asked the question: how are contractors handling COVID vaccinations regarding staff, as well as customers who want to know the status of their technicians who are entering their homes? At this point, this is Nancy's company, have been told that we cannot ask about vaccinations. Staff at a contractor's business may volunteer the information. We are getting more inquiries now and have been turned away at the door by some of our customers this week, regardless of our extensive PPE and other protocols. We are designated as an essential service. How does the industry propose moving forward into the fall with all the various provincial and territorial regulations? And then she adds in one aspect that she didn't include was rapid testing for those who do not want to be vaccinated or are medically exempt. If we are instructed by the government to provide this information, who pays for that? Is it the company or the employee? So there's a lot of issues in there. And with Ontario requiring proof of vaccination yesterday for the first day to enter certain places, this was quite a bit of buzz last night on HRAI staff emails. So, and the reason I mention it links to chapters is obviously the reason chapters were not meeting is exactly what our chair stated in his address, was that their bread and butter, so to speak, was that face-to-face dinner meeting with a speaker. And they have resisted somewhat going to virtual meetings, maybe holding off and hoping it comes back. But obviously COVID is still out there and has concerns for the industry. Martin, do you care to comment? Sandy, do you care to comment?
So we were in a meeting yesterday, a contractor meeting, and the issue came up, maybe with some different nuances. And I do agree with you, Scott, it's a difficult forum in this particular case to try and have the dialogue. And I think Nancy's submission had 4 or 5 different points. So one of the ones that I heard there was that she had advice that she's not able to ask employees if they're vaccinated. That is definitely different than I've seen, and different than some of our members, the position they're taking. So I do believe that, and we can follow up on that and get something back out, but sometimes the who you ask the question to and how you ask it, you may get different answers. We've got some work sites, and this is kind of on the commercial side, but it's definitely applicable across our sector. We've definitely got some work sites that either are or will be only allowing double vaccinated people to work on those projects. And I have no doubt that anyone working in the residential sector may have customers asking if the person is double vaccinated. So I think taking Nancy's particular questions and any others, Scott, that might come in, we could definitely do an FAQ in the next week or two and push that back out to members saying, you know, here's some commonly asked questions, here's what we've been able to dig up, and then feed that back. So that might answer some of these issues. It sure doesn't solve the issue of, you know, if you've got a technician that is working for a member company and refuses to get vaccinated, and you're working on a work site that isn't allowing people to come onto the work site unless they're double vaccinated. You may have noticed that Metrolinx is putting those people on unpaid leave. So there's a bunch of different tactics that are playing out in the marketplace. So hope that helps.
Yeah, Martin, did you want to add to that?
Well, just no. I would support what Sandy said. Taking a position on this sort of thing may be challenging for HRI in the context of do we want to? First of all, what do all of our members think? To try to get consensus on an issue like this might be challenging. The government has been shifting a lot on this file too. I just see a note from Tara about the vaccine passport that now exists in Manitoba, and it's coming in Ontario too. In fact, we're a couple of days past the implementation date. So I think probably the most we can offer, and I'd be interested to hear from Nancy, if there's something specific that she thinks we should be acting on. Seems to me like the best thing we can do for the time being is to keep our members up to speed on what the latest requirements are. What the defer to Sandy on this, whether or not we can offer a position on what you can ask of your employees. We've had advice, but companies will get their own advice legally on what can be done and what can't. But it seems like this might be the kind of thing that, like when early in the pandemic, we did a series of webinars that members found very useful to keep them up to speed on the shifting ground that they were experiencing, just to make sense of it. And as much as possible, we tried to have actual government representatives speaking to these things rather than us trying to interpret and potentially getting some things wrong. So that might be something we can pursue in the fall as the rules change.
Yeah, it is. It's very difficult times for sure, and yeah, I mean, with that, I mean, a lot of trades and other individuals that would normally walk into a building as of yesterday in Ontario, anyway, that became a problem. So I do have a quick chapter update from Tara Smith, who says. In Manitoba, they have scheduled a Zoom board meeting for a Zoom meeting for their board. There'll be their board of directors for the chapter in October, and then they plan, hopefully, to do a virtual meeting in November.
Okay, and Scott, just picking up, Nancy responded to the call and has specified what she's looking for, which is clarification. She says government needs to be aware of the issue since we are part of the emergency service requirement. So I guess maybe it's clarification around the unique needs of essential services like our industry. How do we provide those essential services in the context of maybe contradictory rules around what we can ask of employees and what we do when we have customers who refuse access. Maybe the vaccine passport will really solve that, but I don't know what we do with people who refuse, right? So that's maybe the kind of the ongoing issue. So Nancy, we can work on that. We'll try to get clarification and share what we find with the membership when the time comes. I don't know if Sandy has anything to add to that from our discussion yesterday.
That's pretty consistent with the conversation we had yesterday that potentially, again, I'll go back to FAQ kind of approach. What's the latest information? So I think we can take that away and potentially have something posted on the website shortly. Anything that people from this group want to submit as specific questions, please get them into us, and we'll do our best to come up with the news of the day. And I think Martin made the comment, it shifts, right? So we may make a statement today, and 3, 4, or 5 days from now it may change. But this is definitely an issue that, say, it's come up 2 days in a row. It's come up, so it's definitely worth us putting some resources to that, which we can do.
Okay, I thought Laverne Coulter had sent me a follow-up, but I do not see that. So Laverne, if you're still on, feel free to send that to me. Not sure what happened there. And as of now, we can open the floor up because we've handled the 4 previous submissions, the 2 submissions that we received, one today, one yesterday. If there's any other concerns, questions, comments about what we've discussed, please enter them in the Engage tab. Just wondering if any of our regional staff wanted to use the Engage tab to add in on anything that they may wish to regarding things we already spoke to. Any questions from our friends in the media that are on? See any? All right, well, we'll give this another minute, and if nothing comes through, then we will adjourn the town hall meeting.
Hi, Scott. It's Cassandra from Bucks. I just wanted to mention there was a question from Laverne. Are some chapters doing virtual meetings? If yes, how are they working out? Was that responded to previously?
That one was. I did get that
Okay.
one back, but I thought I saw his name pop up, but maybe it's, I don't know, just a technical issue.
It might have just been a technical issue there. I don't see another question.
Okay.
Scott, if Sandy's still on the call, I see a question from Nancy, which we thought might come up, that he's probably in the best position to answer, which is, we didn't vote or receive nor accept the financials during the AGM. Sandy, maybe could you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Nancy, last year when we were looking at doing a virtual meeting, we met with our legal counsel and talked a little bit about what's required, and we went through the history of kind of what we've been doing and what the latest laws were. The advice we received from him is the financials should be presented to the board and the audited financials along with the auditors. So we had the auditors come in, meet with the HRAI board in late August, around the 25th. They approved everything, and then we package them up and we send them out to the membership, but no vote is required. The only vote that's required is for the membership to approve the auditors for the coming year, which was done today in each of the 3 divisions. So that's just a bit of a change from history, but that was the legal advice that we had received. And happy to take any questions if you have any today. And Frank went through the details earlier. So that would be the answer to that question.
Okay, with no further submissions, I will now invite Eric Foran to turn back his camera on and unmute and close out the session.
Closing remarks. Well, I'll keep them very short. First, I really want to thank everybody for attending this session today. I really appreciate the hard work HRI has done to shift to an online venue for the AGM. I see and I know it's been very challenging for everybody. And in ending, I'll just say once again, thank you for joining us. Continue to do the great work that you do, and have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you, and bye.